Welcome back to today's economic news. I'm John, and today we're diving into a complex and controversial topic that merges the worlds of geopolitics, economics, and the question of morality in international relations. We're spotlighting the U.S. operation in Venezuela and the ramifications of tightening oil sanctions. If you've been under the impression that these are benign moves aimed at restoring democracy, think again. Our story today illuminates a much more sinister interplay of interests and consequences that should incite outrage. Now, before you start thinking this is just another geopolitical skirmish, consider this. With every turn of the political wheel, it becomes increasingly apparent that the most affected are not the policymakers, but the ordinary citizens caught in the crossfire. These citizens are left grappling with the tailspin of an economy that's being manipulated by forces far beyond their control. So why exactly should you be furious? Because these maneuvers are not mere exercises in diplomacy. They are strategic actions that impact global oil prices, your gas bill, and ultimately the broader economic stability of nations. Let's step back for a moment to really understand how we arrived at this precarious juncture. Historically, U.S.-Venezuela relations have waxed and waned, driven primarily by the politics of oil. During the 1970s, the world witnessed the oil crisis, a period when oil prices surged globally, setting a precedent for how nations would vie for control over energy resources. Because of its rich oil reserves, Venezuela became a focal point of American interests. In essence, the blend of political and economic objectives in Venezuelan policy has long been driven by one constant goal: securing energy dominance, particularly amidst increasing rivals like Russia and China. Fast forward to recent years under the Trump administration, where we saw a distinct escalation. A series of sanctions were introduced, touted as necessary to cripple a government deemed hostile by U.S. standards. But what these sanctions actually represented was an attempt to strangle an already fragile economy to control a critical resource: oil. The rhetoric around capturing Maduro must be framed in this context of economic warfare. A narrative was constructed to justify physical, military presence in the name of democracy and stability, when in reality, the focus was on ensuring control over significant oil resources of global economic interest. Now, here's where it gets raw. Venezuela is home to an estimated 300 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, making up about 20% of the global total. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly 4 times the reserves of the entire United States. To put that in more relatable terms, imagine if overnight a foreign power decided it had a right to 4 times the wealth in your bank account. What would that do to your sense of security and sovereignty? It would be absolute chaos, and yet that's precisely the dynamic Venezuela faces as interventions continue to make life more challenging for its population. Opponents of these interventionist policies argue that they serve not to liberate the Venezuelan people, but to advance U.S. corporate interests. The repercussions? A society that remains mired in economic hardship while external powers play puppet masters. Critics say these sanctions do more harm than good, crippling ordinary citizens while wealth is siphoned off by multinational enterprises. To quote a figure in this ongoing drama, "We built Venezuela's oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us." The irony, of course, is that the same entities lamenting the theft are those perpetuating economic suffering for thousands. Martina Navratilova might have weighed in on this as a side note, but her sentiment resonates. Holding a nation hostage while pillaging its natural resources is not just colonial posturing, it's an exploitation marked as liberation. And next on the chopping block, perhaps Greenland or Nigeria. This kind of maneuvering reflects a need to control narratives and, more insidiously, a disguised agenda to dominate global energy markets under the pretext of upholding democracy. As libertarians often highlight, these intervention strategies set dangerous precedents. Inflation and subsequent resource theft impoverish the broader populace in favor of corporate oligarchs. It's a blatant misalignment of government priorities that results in wasted taxpayer dollars and dogged persistence in foreign policy failures. Interventions such as these tear at the fabric of liberty both at home and abroad, resulting in violations that echo through the halls of justice, or more correctly, injustice. In closing, to connect the dots, the U.S. operation in Venezuela is less about altruism and far more about an alarming thesis of control over essential resources. If this narrative troubles you, if you're tired of seeing taxpayer money used to bankroll foreign disasters that don't benefit the average citizen, I urge you to hit subscribe. It's time to hold those in power accountable and demand a policy shift that prioritizes human dignity and economic justice over coercive control. Thank you for joining me today on today's economic news. Let's continue to bring truth to light.